Welcome back to Reimagine. Here we are in January 2021. So many interesting conversations to be had at such a key time in the crypto and blockchain space. So we have with us today a very special guest who's able to speak from a perspective that most simply can't. We're joined now by Eva Kaili, a member of the European Parliament and chair of the Science and Technology Committee. Eva, firstly, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us.
Thank you for having me. It's a great pleasure to discuss about the exciting technologies, especially under the prism of the pandemic. At least we can meet no matter where we are located and keep working on these exciting times.
Certainly a sentiment I think everyone in this industry shares. Now, Eva, you've been an outspoken politician on the cause of blockchain and cryptocurrency tech for some time now. Could you tell our viewers a little bit about what got you into the blockchain space in the first place, and how and why you've remained so passionate about it for so long?
Yes, so let me say that at this point I'm in Athens, so I'm from Greece, and I spent the time of the, I would say I was in the center of the crisis, the economic crisis that hit Greece. Here I was a member of the Greek Parliament, and then 2014 I got elected in the European Parliament. So it was actually a wake-up call about the inefficiencies and the shortcoming of the banking system and the governance we had in Europe that actually it was I would say the reason why we couldn't handle what happened to us after 2008. So a lot of people suffered. So I was trying to find solutions and how we could avoid to have a second crisis and or at least to deal with it in a better way. And listening and reading about people that were criticizing the government, I heard about the need to decentralize the system, especially the central banks, because they actually failed in Greece and Cyprus to reform and to make sure that the citizens would not be the ones to pay the highest price. So I tried to understand how this technology would work because it was everything about blockchain and Bitcoin at that point.
Hmm.
It seemed like a wave of like a revolutionary wave,
Right.
and crypto anarchists were talking about it a bit more. And so I tried to understand the core of the technology, and I found fascinating the way this intermediation could actually work and how you can have a trust machine that can help you develop even smart contracts for more things than just a currency solution, a decentralized one, to be able to remove frictions, extra costs, and spendings, and to make sure that this layer of trust will exist even with cross-border transactions, and how you can, through tokenization, basically digitalize your assets and open up a whole new market. So this was what mainly interested me, and then I understood also the potential that we had if this technology meets artificial intelligence, IoT, and more things. So that this is how it started.
A wonderful story, and I think you touch on such an interesting point there about the sort of decentralization and the disintermediation elements of blockchain technology that really allow people to move in a trustless, fluid, sort of free working system. But that being said, I mean, you fundamentally have served in, as you said, in the Greek Parliament, in the European Parliament. And blockchain up until now has really been marketed, for better or for worse, as a technology that ignores traditional boundaries, both those of nations and of businesses, being cross-border and open and potential, which parts of Europe is open to. In some ways, obviously, Europe is in itself a project that is supranational in the European Union. But it goes a lot beyond that, blockchain technology, truly opening the world up in ways that it hasn't been before. As a politician, how do you approach this sort of truly globalized perspective when it comes to blockchain technology?
Please, and of course there are challenges, not because of the technology, but because we realize that in a globalized world we have um, different understanding of value, different systems, and interoperability could cause actually a lot of problems. So our systems are not ready to collaborate. And sometimes this is also scaring people away because they feel they would lose control if they move into a completely decentralized system. So I think the exercise here of thinking how decentralization could actually be beneficial for citizens at what level means we have to test it, we have to pilot it, we have to even try to think how this could work and then decide. Because in the beginning, everybody thought blockchain would solve all the problems of the
Right.
universe. Okay, so it is an amazing technology, but we have to decide where it's going to actually create more solutions than problems. Because it's a difficult technology to handle. You need to have a proper architecture, and if things change while you're developing this technology, it's very difficult to go back and redesign it or reverse what you have done already. So this means that I believe it's a technology. It is an amazing philosophy behind it, but basically it's a technology, and how we use it can make it beneficial, can help us remove frictions, can help us improve actually supply chains. So out of this global perspective that we are discussing and under the light and the prism of the pandemic, we can see that blockchain could have helped us avoided the disruption of supply chains when we were ordering safety equipment and it was stuck in different countries. And it could have helped us to make sure that we can identify the products, and we could also make sure that we would have less bureaucracy, faster transactions. We wouldn't block by the bureaucracy at the borders. So there were many interesting things and tasks that blockchain could help us deal with. Even if you go at the, like I would say the basis to have an identity on blockchain, and then to feel that you can upload your health data and that they would be protected by blockchain, which means nobody could have access as long as you wouldn't give them access to, and you could revoke access or make sure that you know and understand who has seen your health data. So I believe that there is huge potential to use it to benefit globally the economy and the quality of our lives. But in the end, we have to make sure that it's worth it to go deeper into specific applications, because maybe we need different combinations of technologies. Maybe it's not the solution for everything. Um, so it's a technology that now it's maturing a bit, and besides the excitement, we also see the problems of scalability and durability of some systems, and also the potential. So I think now we will see the best applications coming out that will use really blockchain, and they will not just have the blockchain name on it as like the hype that everybody has to explore blockchain.
Certainly, a powerful point there about a maturing in the space. I think that I think most have seen is starting to come to bear. And you spoke about those applications of supply chain logistics. These powerful tools that can be used as mechanisms, and obviously anyone working in the space knows of countless other potential applications where a blockchain could be very useful. But on the other side of that, as countries get more interested, involved in blockchain technology, and now whether that be for establishing property rights or establishing central bank digital currencies, whatever it may be, there are some who would argue that there is a risk to a politicization of this technology and the use of it for more negative or nefarious purposes, whether it be tracking citizens, monitoring people in ways, and giving away access to privacy, as you mentioned, health data. There's some genuine concerns that people have that as politicians and nations get involved, there could be risks. Is that something that you worry about at all, and how do you balance those positives and negatives?
Yes, of course there is. As I said, this is a technology. How you're going to use it, it's something that could raise concerns, or it could actually prove really beneficial. So I think there are risks, of course, related to having a dominant position of private powers in a distributed ecosystem. I think we saw recently examples of that, and we saw that when there was the realization of the manipulation that could take place and the power that they gathered. Then the system came and they tried to create legal certainty, and they tried to, let's say, they tried to put a legal framework that could actually work and help us feel that we can keep investing in these technologies. And some of the initial big players didn't manage to survive this transition, and a lot of people lost their money, and the systems lost their values. So why? Because let me say that the central banks, also, I believe they should outsource a lot of their responsibilities, because they didn't manage to properly balance everything. In the same time, they have also responsibilities that private players do not have. So if suddenly issuing currencies becomes something that the private sector could do, or big company, then the risks could be really significant, and people could actually lose money, their fortunes, and their trust again, also to this new decentralized system. So I see the risks, and I believe that to empower citizens, we have to create a pilot regime to test it. Actually, I'm working on DLT pilot regime now in Europe, to make sure that there will be some rules, some guidelines. We will test it. We will see if it can become a permanent regime for DLTs, so that we can explore also the benefits of this technology, and we will not be, let's say, delayed by the risks that they might occur. So I think there is a need to create legal certainty at this point. I don't want to talk more about regulation, because usually people in the space in blockchain, they didn't want to hear about like politicians and regulation. They would like to avoid it. It's a quite revolutionary technology in its nature. But in the end, now everybody, the good players, the ones that they can understand the power of the technology, they call for clear rules, so that they can enter the markets and they can expand even more.
Clear rules certainly are, very important as the space grows and as more institutions come into being involved in this market and people want to understand. But I'd like to pick up on something you mentioned there about the potential role for private money in the system, and how that could have a potential impact, because you've come out in the past speaking quite vocally against elements of the Libra project, the Facebook-backed Libra project, as it was initially envisaged, with a basket of currencies underpinning it. Now, there have obviously been a lot of changes since that was a major factor in the headlines, and now the current form it may take is unclear. But, have you had a chance to sort of consolidate your thoughts when it comes to private-backed money and the role that it could potentially play in Europe in the future?
Let me say that I was not like against something. I was very concerned by allowing big companies that control our data, actually, or transaction data, to have full control of a currency without following the same responsibilities that the systemic issuers follow. So although I love the technology, I'm also very concerned what happens if too much power is concentrated. So if it's a central bank or a private bank, it's equally worrying for me. So what I said is, basically we have to decide how we're going to treat, let's say, a digital currency that it's owned by a private company. Is it going to be a currency? Will they have the right to issue more of this currency? And whose is this decision to make? Or is it going to be a payment system? So if it's a payment system, it follows different rules. And I think it could be also very interesting, but it has to address different payment systems, because we have a different economy in Africa, a different economy in Europe, different regulations in US. So there are challenges there that the technology would face in any case. my also let's say the second layer that was a bit worrying for me was not actually if you're going to use a global payment system, because I believe sooner or later we're going to have the integration of a lot of payment systems, that they will be interoperable and we will have something very close to a global currency. I would say like Bitcoin plays a role like that already, and it's completely decentralized. But what I'm concerned of is the data of our transactions, who owns them, how
Right.
you can be manipulated, and what is the role of the owner of your data, your choices, the understanding that they gain and the value that your data have without you realizing that you're generating them, and you're being offered with like free products or comfortable payments, but at the same time, as we all know, nothing is free, so basically you might be the product. So I believe that we have to be proactive and to make sure that everybody will have a level playing field, that they can explore, as I said, how we can benefit citizens, how we can make profitable businesses, but we have to be careful about the worst case scenario, like the black mirror
Right.
of the story, when too much power is concentrated, either at the company or the governments.
Right. Now, obviously, I mean, you as someone who is acutely aware, and as a politician acutely aware of these problems, are well positioned to look at these issues and address them. But do you think that's reflected across Europe's political class at the moment? I mean, do you think that Europe is prepared to take on the challenges of potentially, these sort of developments in technology and currency and how they could impact the global financial system?
I'm not sure that all politicians can explain what blockchain is. I don't
Right.
think that they can all see the potential it has. So if you ask them if it's like if it has the properties of a distributed ledger, as efficiency, cost effectiveness, it's irreversible or transparent or auditable, and all these things that I mentioned already. I'm not sure that they realize it. I don't think they understand how the technology works. But most of my colleagues, when we voted for the first resolution I initiated in the parliament, they were very supportive, because when they were presented with the potential and the value that it could have for citizens, they were very open to support it. They didn't have to understand all the details of the
Right.
technology. This is something for the experts and computer scientists to really understand. But to have a fully decentralized government service, for example, um, is it? I would say it has some unknown factors that we have to examine, and I think in the same time we have to understand if this would be more beneficial or would create more problems. And I'm not sure that this is a discussion we have done in the parliament or among politicians. Um, but I would say the principles are: we are innovation friendly, technology neutral and business neutral, and this means we will explore and we will fund some pilots to see where we have to go, and what is the direction and how we should develop and progress with this technology, before we make conclusions or before we have more resistance. Because when sometimes when you don't understand the technology, you listen to the concerns, and this could create barriers and resistance and delay a lot the right legislation that would release this amazing dynamic that this could have. So I would say we still need to keep talking about it. We need to educate more politicians, and maybe we should also decide how the system itself, I mean, the ecosystem of the people that they work with blockchain, how they would like to see the governance of it. Because I feel that they really need to have a harmonized environment where they can feel comfortable and they can feel also safe to develop their innovative ideas on blockchain, to avoid, of course, things that we saw happening in US or China, when you start and then you don't know if you're gonna end up in prison, if you are legit, if you are in a comfortable sandbox and you can test it, and you have this like space and the support of a government. Of course, you can achieve greater things without worrying of a backlash, actually.
An incredibly important point you bring up about at least a clear regulatory space, whether it be supportive or not, to ensure that people know what they're doing. I'd like to pivot a little bit, however, and bring the questions a little closer to home for you. Talk about Greece's role as a potential blockchain innovator or development sandbox and space. Obviously, you've touted Greece's potential in the past. As an innovator in the space and what it could potentially represent for the country. Could you give us a little bit of your thoughts on Greece specifically and how blockchain and even go beyond AI and other technologies may be able to be executed within the country?
Listen, any country that is not digitalized at the like at the high top countries that they have succeeded to be digitalized, I would say they have a huge potential to use blockchain and remove bureaucratic any bureaucracy that exists, any barriers that you face by using these technologies and like move much faster to the future in the digital era. So since we have developed these tools, so if you're comfortable and you have enough convenience with your with the technologies you use already, you wouldn't try easily to adopt like blockchain or AI solutions. But when you are in Greece and you have to solve all these obstacles that bureaucracy is presenting to you, then with blockchain you could actually make a leap ahead and find great solutions. So the problem is that because once it was the 10 years of was like austerity and the effort to leave this tunnel of constantly following different measures that were destroying the quality of life of citizens, and they were the burden of them to pay taxes for mistakes that they were not theirs. And the moment we exited this tunnel, we fell into this pandemic. So now there is another, we are in a survival mode again, maybe more prepared because we never felt we were out of a survival mode. And we have to deal with constant uncertainties coming in our way. So we haven't developed a blockchain strategy in Greece. But what I see happening is that everybody's willing to try innovative solutions, and everybody's hoping that we're gonna overcome this pandemic by using artificial intelligence, as if AI was a vaccine. Actually, I mean, the discussions I've been having about the pandemic, it's always about AI. It's very interesting to see. A year ago, nobody would talk so much about AI. A year and a half. So I think this is a great opportunity to see how we could use it to develop a national strategy. But as I said, I'm working now already on legislation that's going to be European. So maybe even this is better because you don't want to have the friction of different national strategies in Europe and then try to harmonize them. It's better if we manage to create like a method on how to deal with different tokens and how we should define cryptocurrencies and stable coins and decentralization, and to decide if we're going to create new boxes or we're going to try to fit the new technologies into old boxes or like part of it, and then discuss with its member state and see how they can adopt this and maybe adapt in these suggestions with the suggestions. So I would say we are now in a transformation, a digital transformation in Greece that in some countries has happened, but this can open a lot of opportunities. So I think especially in the fintech sector where we had suffered the most, and where the hidden fees actually they are so um, crazy. Sometimes you make a small transaction and the fees you have to pay, they are bigger than the actual amount that you want to
Mm.
transfer to make like a payment. That blockchain solutions are actually needed. So I think that the system is already looking for these ideas to how to outsource these like services and how to avoid the hidden fees. Um, so I hope that sooner or later we will be able to talk um, about projects that have been successful also in Greece.
So 2020 has felt like a bit of a lost year for many, or at least a derailed year in many ways. And as we look forward to 2021, where there's a lot of light and hope on the horizon, if things do work out as we all hope with the vaccine, are there any particular innovations that you're looking forward to and looking out for in the year ahead?
Um, you don't mean blockchain, I guess, you mean in general. So
As you wish, things of your passion and your interest.
I see that 2021 will actually be the year where everybody will try to keep teleworking. They will try to see how the new normal will arrive and how we can keep the lessons we learned from the pandemic and make the most out of it. So if teleworking is an option, if it can help us reduce cost, or if it could actually become a new solution, this could be one of the major factors that we will see changing in our lives, even teleeducation. So we're going to see a lot of things happening digitally. We saw that most of the SMEs that survived this pandemic, they were the innovative ones and the ones that they could adapt faster to this change, and the ones that they could provide their services digitally online very fast. And also, since I'm at the European Parliament, the last year we changed a bit our priorities. I can tell you that we will be funding SMEs and startups and the traditional sector to help them become more resilient through digitalization and innovation, which means we will try to make sure that if something similar ever happens, we will be prepared, and the business models and the operational models will be um, actually they will be transformed and transitioned into the digital era, because they were not. There were not so many innovative companies or ideas or startups or SMEs than we thought. The people that they are in this environment of innovation, they feel maybe that amazing things are happening. But if you see the numbers, they were like more than 70% of the companies, they still hadn't transformed their business model. So we're going to see, I would say, opportunities in all sectors, definitely in tourism, in health, in the mobility, teleworking, teleeducation, and also the fintech services. Because before the pandemic, everything could go wrong with our credit cards. You had to go to the bank and solve it, and now everything can happen online so fast. And they had to adopt like different security controls. They had to be faster to address the need of doing everything online, and also, let's say, biometrics, I think, will start being used a bit more, since you cannot physically be present the same way you were before, even in 21. They developed new ideas and new ways of verifying your identity. So I think identity is going to be something that will change, and we will give more options to the citizens. So I see many things accelerating by this pandemic. Um, and as I said before, artificial intelligence is something that now everybody understands a bit more, not just the automation, but also the challenges of becoming autonomous, to have a system of AI becoming really autonomous. So we are discussing about these things, and people are more aware and interested. Also because they are hoping that if we use it properly, if we use AI, if we use the right data, then we would have a faster understanding of this pandemic, and better prognosis and treatment. So I think that the perceptions will change, the business models will change. We will try to be more resilient, and the transition to the digital era will happen really fast. Um, so this is it. And if this helps a bit, in Europe we are preparing also legislation on supercomputers, the industrial strategy of supercomputers, microprocessors, our new cybersecurity, the NIS directive, and as you saw, the Digital Markets Act, the Digital Services Act, and the Governance Act. So how we treat data, the responsibilities of the big players online that became even bigger during the pandemic. So we will try to regulate the chaos of the internet and support innovative technologies and support supercomputers, quantum computers, to be prepared, if something like this ever happens again in our lifetime.
Well, Eva, I mean, I sure hope that nothing else like this does happen again in our lifetime, but it is always so useful to be prepared. Eva, I want to thank you so much for speaking to us. I can't tell you what a pleasure it is to be able to hear a politician of your standing speaking so eloquently about these innovative technologies, issues that define the generations of now and those beyond. It's powerful stuff to hear, and I thank you again for your service to the crypto, blockchain, and innovation space. For all those watching as well, stay with us at Reimagine. Make sure you keep watching. There's so much more good content we're putting out there. And Eva, again, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for being very kind and nice to discuss about exciting things. And if you have any suggestions during our this period of legislation with the MiG and the DLC pilot regime, please do let me know, because we are still trying to find a balanced way to approach this technology and to make sure it's going to be beneficial for all the investors, the scientists, and citizens. So I really appreciate your invitation, and I hope to talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks so much, Eva.
Thank you.